The strangest mutations found in Chernobyl. The video opens with haunting aerial footage of Pripyat. Dilapidated buildings loom over deserted streets where trees and plants burst through the concrete. The iconic Ferris wheel stands still, rusted and overtaken by vines. The only sounds are the whispering wind and distant bird calls. Hey everyone, ever wondered what happens when humans abandon a place and nature takes over? Welcome to Chernobyl, a place frozen in time since the world's worst nuclear disaster. Today, we're diving into the strangest mutations found here, in the radioactive aftermath. Trust me, you won't believe what nature has been up to. Here's what's on the menu. We'll chat about how radiation has affected plants, animals, and even tiny microorganisms in the area. We'll bust some myths, no giant mutants roaming around, sorry. And we'll explore the incredible resilience of nature in the face of extreme adversity. So, grab a snack, get comfy, and let's jump right in. The Chernobyl disaster, a brief recap. So, let's set the stage with a quick history lesson. On April 26, 1986, during what was supposed to be a routine safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant's reactor number 4, things went terribly wrong. Due to a combination of design flaws and operator errors, the reactor exploded. It wasn't just a small blast, it blew the lid off the reactor, spewing radioactive material into the atmosphere. In the disaster's immediate aftermath, over 100,000 people were evacuated from nearby areas, including the city of Pripyat, home to the plant workers and their families. The Soviet government established a 30-kilometer exclusion zone around the plant, a place where time stopped, and nature began to reclaim the land. This zone has since become a unique environment for studying the long-term effects of radiation on life. Understanding radiation and mutations. Alright, before we get into the weird stuff, let's talk about radiation. In simple terms, radiation is energy that travels through space. Ionizing radiation, the type released during the Chernobyl disaster, has enough energy to remove electrons from atoms, which can mess with the atoms in our DNA. So, how does this affect living organisms? Well, radiation can damage DNA, leading to mutations. These mutations might be tiny changes in the genetic code or larger structural changes in chromosomes. Some mutations can be harmful, while others might have no noticeable effect. The impact can be immediate, like acute radiation sickness, or show up years later, even in future generations. Mutations in the plant life of Chernobyl. A. The Red Forest. First up, the infamous Red Forest. This was a dense pine forest just a stone's throw from the reactor. After the explosion, the trees absorbed massive amounts of radiation and turned a reddish-brown color before dying off, hence the name. It's like nature's eerie reminder of what happened. But nature didn't give up. New plants began to grow in the contaminated soil. Some of these plants showed unusual growth patterns, twisted trunks, deformed branches, and other oddities. Scientists have been studying these changes to understand how radiation affects plant life over time. Morphological changes in plants. Some plants in the exclusion zone are displaying gigantism, growing larger than their counterparts outside the zone. Imagine sunflowers towering over you more than usual. This could be due to hormonal imbalances caused by radiation affecting growth regulators. On the flip side, other plants exhibit deformities. Leaves with strange shapes, stems that twist in odd directions, and flowers with extra petals or fused parts. It's like Mother Nature decided to get creative with her designs, influenced by the radiation. Reproductive issues. Radiation doesn't just alter how plants look, it also affects how they reproduce. Seeds from plants in highly contaminated areas often have reduced viability. That means fewer seeds sprout, and those that do might not survive to maturity. Over time, this could lead to changes in plant populations and affect the entire ecosystem. Genetic studies. Scientists have conducted genetic studies comparing plants from the exclusion zone to those from unaffected areas. They've found higher rates of mutations at the DNA level in the contaminated plants. These insights help us understand the long-term genetic impacts of radiation on plant life. Animal mutations in Chernobyl. A. Invertebrates. Now, let's talk about the critters. Insects like butterflies have shown noticeable changes. Some have wing deformities, wings that are smaller, misshapen, or have abnormal patterns. These mutations can affect their ability to fly and survive. Pollinators like bees have seen population declines in some areas, which isn't just bad news for them but also for the plants that rely on them. Spiders have exhibited changes in their web spinning, possibly due to neurological effects from radiation exposure. It's like the whole ecosystem is adjusting in unexpected ways. Birds. Birds in the area offer some of the most fascinating observations. There are cases of albinism and melanism, birds with unusually white or dark feathers due to pigment changes. Some have beak deformities or other physical anomalies that can make feeding and surviving more challenging. Even more intriguing are the neurological effects. Studies have found that some birds have smaller brain sizes, which can affect their behaviors, like how they sing or attract mates. Changes in song patterns and mating rituals have been observed, possibly impacting their ability to reproduce successfully. Mammals. On to the mammals. Small creatures like rodents have shown increased rates of cataracts and tumors. Physical deformities such as shortened limbs or tails have been noted, which can affect their mobility and survival. Interestingly, larger mammals like wolves, boars, and bears seem relatively unaffected on the surface. Their populations have actually increased in the exclusion zone, possibly due to the absence of humans. Scientists are keeping an eye on them to study any internal effects that aren't immediately visible. And let's not forget the Przewalski horses, a rare species reintroduced to the area. They've adapted well, and ongoing research is monitoring their genetic health. Microorganisms and fungi, the unseen mutations. Now, let's delve into the microscopic world. Radiation-resistant bacteria have been found thriving in highly contaminated environments. These tough little organisms have enhanced DNA repair mechanisms, allowing them to survive levels of radiation that would be lethal to others. Even more astonishing are the radiotrophic fungi. These fungi contain melanin, the same pigment in our skin, and they use it to convert gamma radiation into chemical energy. It's like they're eating radiation to survive. This process could have incredible applications, like helping clean up radioactive waste or even aiding future space missions where radiation is a big concern. The myth versus reality. Mutant creatures of Chernobyl. Alright, time to bust some myths. Pop culture has painted Chernobyl as a land teeming with giant mutants and monsters. Movies, video games, you name it, they've exaggerated it. But the reality is less sci-fi and more subtle biology. There's no evidence of giant animals or monstrous creatures roaming the exclusion zone. Radiation doesn't typically cause organisms to grow larger, in fact, it often impairs growth. The real mutations are far less dramatic but scientifically significant, like the changes in bird plumage or insect development. So while we won't find a Godzilla-sized mutant, the truth is still pretty wild and worth exploring. Human impact, mutations and health effects. We can't discuss Chernobyl without touching on the human aspect. The immediate aftermath saw plant workers and first responders suffering from acute radiation sickness. Symptoms ranged from nausea and vomiting to severe burns and even death. Long-term effects include increased rates of thyroid cancer, especially in children at the time of the disaster. There's ongoing research into genetic mutations in populations exposed to the fallout. Some studies suggest potential transgenerational effects, mutations passed down to future generations, leading to birth defects or other health issues. It's a sobering reminder of the disaster's human cost. Nature's resilience, ecological impacts and adaptations. Here's where things get both interesting and hopeful. In the absence of humans, wildlife in the exclusion zone is actually thriving. Populations of wolves, lynx, deer, and even species not seen in the area for decades have rebounded. It seems that, for these animals, the lack of human interference outweighs the negatives of radiation exposure. Researchers are studying how species might be adapting to the higher radiation levels. It's like watching evolution in real time. Ecosystem dynamics have shifted, with predator and prey relationships evolving in this unique environment. The exclusion zone has become an accidental wildlife sanctuary, a place where nature is making a surprising comeback. Current state of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. So, what's happening in Chernobyl today? Well, it's a hotspot for scientific research. International teams are conducting studies on radiation's long-term ecological and genetic effects. They're using drones and remote sensing technology to monitor wildlife and environmental changes without disturbing the area. Tourism has also taken off, believe it or not. With strict safety protocols, visitors can explore parts of the exclusion zone. It's a surreal experience, walking through abandoned towns overtaken by nature. But it's essential to balance curiosity with respect for the site's history and ongoing environmental recovery. There are even proposals to designate the zone as a protected biological reserve. This would help preserve the unique ecosystems that have developed and support continued research. Lessons learned and future implications. So, what can we learn from Chernobyl? For one, it highlights the importance of nuclear safety and the potential risks of cutting corners. Ensuring rigorous safety protocols in nuclear energy is crucial to prevent such catastrophes. Chernobyl also offers valuable insights into the effects of radiation exposure over time. This knowledge can inform medical treatments and guide responses to future incidents. Perhaps most profound is the lesson on nature's resilience. Despite severe contamination, life persists and adapts. It's a testament to the strength and adaptability of ecosystems, a reminder that while human actions can cause significant harm, nature often finds a way to recover. To wrap things up, the mutations and adaptations we've explored in Chernobyl are both fascinating and enlightening. From oddly shaped plants to animals adapting in unexpected ways, the exclusion zone teaches us about the interplay between human technology and the natural world. It's a place where devastation and resilience coexist, a silent witness to past mistakes and a living laboratory for scientists. As we reflect on Chernobyl, let's consider how we can better respect and protect our environment. If you found this journey as intriguing as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more explorations into the world's most compelling stories. And don't forget to share this video to spread awareness about the importance of environmental stewardship. Let's learn from the past to build a better future together. A huge thank you to all the researchers, scientists, and organizations dedicated to studying Chernobyl. Their work not only helps us understand what happened but also guides us towards safer and more sustainable practices. If you're curious to learn more, I recommend Chernobyl, History of a Tragedy, by Serhii Plokhy and the documentary series, Chernobyl, by HBO. They're eye-opening and incredibly informative.